This summer may be goddamn hot, but there's at least one servant who will keep you cool. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, with a spotlight for the servant who will melt your frozen heart, and then likely freeze it again, Summer Anastasia. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. So if you're ready for an avalanche of ice-related puns, then make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring my bell so you can catch all of these spotlight videos as they go up, and you can help out the channel. And now, on to Anna's stats. Anna has a max HP of 11,288 and a max attack of 9,542, which becomes 9,064 due to her archer class damage modifier. Both her HP and attack are about average for an SR archer, and likewise her attack is slightly above average for a 4-star servant, while her HP is slightly below, but neither stat jumps out as particularly strong or weak. When it comes to her command cards, Anna has 3 hits on her quick card, 3 hits on her arts, 2 hits on her buster, and 5 hits on her extra card. She has an NP gain rate of 0.57% and a star rate of 8%. Both her NP gain and star generating are a little below average due to her low NP gain rate and her hit counts. Overall, Summer Anna's stats are consistently average across the board, which makes her one of the rare balanced attackers in FGO. Taking a look at her skills, Anna's first skill is Shivzik Summer rank B+. This skill increases her arch card effectiveness for 3 turns between 20 and 30%, and it also increases her NP charge between 30 and 50%, both of these effects depending on level. Her second skill is Freezing Summertime rank A. This skill grants her 1 turn of invincibility. It also grants her buff removal resistance between 50 and 100%, and it generates between 10 and 20 crit stars, both effects depending on level. And finally, her last skill is Let Your Wicked Eye Accelerate rank B. This skill grants her Ignore Evasion for 3 turns, increases the star absorption rate of her arch cards between 300 and 500%, increases her crit damage between 20 and 30%, and increases her NP damage between 10 and 20%, all of these for 3 turns, and all of these depending on level. As for her passives, Anna has Independent Action with V rank EX, which increases her own crit damage and critical star generating by 10%, and Fey Contract rank B+, which increases her debuff resistance and her success rate by 9.5%. Anna has an Arts Quick deck with Quick, Arts Buster, and an Arts Noble Phantasm. Anna's Noble Phantasm is... I'm not pronouncing that. God help me. Snegletta Snegurochka. It's a single target arts attack that deals damage to one enemy with a damage modifier between 900 and 1500% depending on NP level. It also seals their skills for 1 turn and reduces their arch card resistance for 1 turn between 20 and 40% depending on overcharge. And I hope you've all been stockpiling those seashells because Anna's really gonna need them. For level ascension, she's going to need 6 seashells, 8 lanterns, 12 eternal ice, and 10 rainbow yarn, while for skill leveling, she's going to need a further 12 lanterns, 12 seashells, 16 phoenix plumes, and 20 arrowheads per skill. You may be tempted to give Anna the cold shoulder due to her having absolutely 0 unique stats, but Anastasia is capable of cooler moves than you think. Okay, I'll chill out with the ice puns. At first glance, none of Anna's stats really jump off the page. Everything from her HP to her attack, to even her star generating and NP gain just screams average. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it isn't good either. But at least Anna does have one good thing going for her, and that's her passive, which gives her a free 10% crit buff and star generating. And trust me, that does come in handy. It's pretty big for just a free passive skill on a 4-star servant, especially since you'll be doing a lot of critting with Anna. Her last skill, Let Your Wicked Eye Accelerate, gives her additional star absorb on her arch cards, additional crit damage, additional NP damage, and sure hit, all for 3 turns. As an archer, Anna already has high star weight, but that additional star weight on her arch cards ensures that her most important cards will be the ones critting, which not only helps her out tremendously with damage, but NP gain as well. And while that 30% crit buff may not look like much, consider that extra 10% from her passive, which makes this a 40% buff to her crits. But even better than that is the insanely short cooldown on this skill. With 3 turns of uptime and a 4-turn cooldown, Anna can have this ability active for nearly every turn of the battle, especially when supporting her with cooldown reducing allies like Tamamo. Wicked Eye isn't just a crit skill either, it also doubles, perhaps more importantly, as a steroid for her NP, as well as a source of evasion pierce. And I don't think I need to point this out, but having a near permanent evasion pierce and NP damage up is extremely good for boss fights. And crits aren't the only means that Anna has of dishing out damage. She also has Shivzik Summer, a 30% arch buff that also gives her a whopping 50% NP charge. And this skill is what most directly makes up for Ana's otherwise lackluster NP gain. A 50% battery is huge and enables all kinds of things like NPing on back-to-back turns, or even getting off an NP on turn 1 without the need for a dedicated support. This helps Ana deliver both quick immediate damage and sustained damage in longer fights. The arch buff combined with her near permanent increase to arch card star absorb also means that her arch cards are some of the strongest and most consistent around when it comes to NP generating through crits. Speaking of which, if you ever find yourself in immediate need of crit stars, Ana does have Freezing Summertime. It generates 20 crit stars immediately, grants buff removal resistance, and 1 turn of invincibility. This skill works great as a go-to for an immediate kickstarter to Ana's DPS if you happen to open up with a good hand, but it's also good defensively or in a pinch for longer boss fights. For skill leveling, of course, level Ana's NP charge first, because not only is the NP battery insane, but it's also her strongest damage steroid, followed by her crit skill second, and then invincibility last. It's also worth picking up both mana loading and extra card damage for the append skills, since she can make good use of both of them. Ana's Noble Phantasm is a single target arch attack that seals an enemy's skills for a single turn, and it lowers their arch card resistance. It's important to note that her arch resist debuff occurs before damage, so this acts as just another arch buff for her NP, which when combined with her first skill means that she has a full mana burst on her NP for 3 turns. And as I mentioned earlier, Noble Phantasming with Ana on back-to-back turns is fairly easy given her large NP battery. So Summer Ana is actually capable of some very high NP damage for a 4-star servant, especially over the course of 2 to 3 turns. That high burst potential combined with her utility makes Ana play a lot like a 4-star version of Squirtoria, in that she's a single target arch looper who specializes in shaving off multiple break bars in a couple of turns. Ana can also work as a pseudo off support in some arch teams, since any arch Noble Phantasms that follow hers will benefit from that 20% debuff, which makes her Noble Phantasm excellent setup when used as the first NP in a chain. Summer Ana is kind of like the archer version of Kagetora, a single target arch looper who also excels at crit DPS. Since Ana has such high uptime on her crit buffs, she never really suffers from a drop off in her damage from her face cards. And even with limited star generating, her star absorb is so strong and so focused that Ana is nearly guaranteed to crit on every arch card with a little bit of setup. So you don't usually run into that problem where the wrong cards are picking up the most crit stars like you do with other crit DPS servants. That said though, there is a trade-off, and that trade-off is that Ana's crit damage is highly underwhelming. In exchange for being nearly permanent, the bonus damage is very low compared to more dedicated crit servants, who are often capable of hitting 100% bonus crit damage or more. But where Summer Ana mostly shines is in her NP looping ability, mostly due to that 50% battery. Ana is especially strong in Castoria teams, where she can make full use of that 3-turn arch buff and NP buff to fire off up to 3 Noble Phantasms. And at higher NP levels, that's more than enough damage to usually take off 3 bars from all but the toughest enemies. Ana does lack an NP interlude though, and as a limited 4-star, she is very hard to get to higher NP levels. Ana also has a huge drawback in terms of cooldowns, primarily on her first skill. The NP charge has a gigantic 7-turn cooldown, so don't expect to abuse it in longer fights. And without consistent access to that NP battery, Ana isn't quite as capable of endless looping the way that other single target arch servants like Kagetora and Kuro are. With those limitations in mind, it's important to construct a team around Ana that can feed her continuous NP charge or lower her cooldowns. So I highly recommend servants like Tamamo, Paracelsus, Summer Da Vinci, and Caster Gill. Tamamo is an obvious choice due to having everything Ana wants: frequent NP charge, cooldown reduction, healing, and additional arch buffing. Paracelsus and Da Vinci are good free-to-play options due to their ability to buff both Ana's NP gain and her arch cards, and Caster Gill is an excellent option for a more crit-focused team after his recent buffs, which allow him to not only charge Ana's NP gauge, but also give her additional crit damage. Ana's Bond CE is Summer, Ice Cream, and V. It increases the party's arch card effectiveness by 10% and the crit damage by 15%. It's not really worth using unless you want to use Ana in that dedicated off-support role that I mentioned earlier, but you're usually better off just focusing on giving her starting NP charge and arch card effectiveness for looping, like Ocean Flyer and K-Scope, or something that boosts crit damage like Another Ending. In the future, Winds of Spring can be a good CE to pick up for her, especially for challenge quests, since it not only boosts boosts your arts card effectiveness, but your NP damage as well, and it gives invincibility pierce with full attack stats. As for command codes, just slap any crit damage boosting code onto Ana's arts cards, like Heavenly Child of Karama, because she really needs that extra crit damage. Overall, Summer Ana is a strong single target arts archer that's made for challenging content. In a lot of ways, she's a 4-star version of Squirtoria, being able to loop her Noble Phantasm consistently against bosses. She has good utility with her evasion pierce, and she can even play an off support role for a better arts DPS thanks to her NP debuff. And she can also work as a consistent crit servant in some arts teams. But she does suffer from a number of drawbacks. Her long cooldown on her NP battery makes her less reliable than the other single target arts loopers, she's still lacking an NP interlude, and her crit damage is fairly low compared to other crit servants. So all in all, Summer Ana gets an A- from me. She's a really good arts DPS to build your team around if you're missing a good challenge quest servant like Kagetora or Kuro, but she isn't necessary for most players since there are better options. Summer Ana feels like another case of a really good servant in a really crowded niche. But hey, on the bright side, that just means that if you like her, she's also extremely viable. And who doesn't like Ana? And those are my thoughts on Summer Ana, another really good servant on a really strong banner. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over in our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next servant spotlight. So Brony out. Later.